Will, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me. I'm so excited to speak to you again. I have so much that I want to ask you. How have you been?
Hey man, thanks for having me. I've been doing pretty well down here. It's summer in Texas, which is actually one of my favorite times of year.
I thought we could start in an interesting place. I wanted to ask you about the empty boat parable. Why is it posted on the wall at Chisos Boots HQ, and why do you need that daily reminder?
Oh, interesting. I see you've found my personal Twitter. Um, yeah. So to catch the listeners up, there's a parable of a monk that got in his boat, went out to the middle of a lake to meditate, and he closes his eyes and he starts to get deep in meditation. And another boat comes out onto the lake and bumps into his. And while his eyes are still closed, he feels this anger well up at him of towards the other boatsmen. And how could he be so callous and careless to come bump into him while he was meditating? And he opens his eyes and he sees that the other boat is actually empty and it had drifted across the shore and had bumped into his accidentally. And the moral of the parable is that anger is something that is within us, and our reactions are less to do with what is happening externally than our interpretation of those events. And so we have this posted in the back of house because it's a I have a lot of passion and I have a lot of energy, and sometimes I need to be often I need to be reminded that my reactions are fully within my control. And a lot of times this actually applies even to customer support, or we have people that reach out, maybe they've mishandled or they misunderstood the product perhaps, and sometimes they don't react, they don't approach us in a way that you'd like to be approached. And I one of the things I've learned in conjunction with that parable is that the people that express the most anger at you really want to like you. And so if you can remember that's just their way of communicating, and so that it's an empty boat and that your reaction is fully in your control and you can respond calmly and with compassion and alleviate that little nugget of pain that they're having, oftentimes those people will then become your biggest champions. And so having that posted, it just kind of keeps that idea top of mind.
I love that. It's such a great place to start. And I did so much research for this episode, and you have such a fascinating founder story. And I want to turn it over to you, but I think a good place to start with is you a few years ago in a little bit of pain, sitting down, looking down at your shoes, and realizing that you have this problem. Can you tell that story?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a native Texan born right here in Austin, Texas, the capital of Texas. And so my first pair of footwear were a little pair of red cowboy boots. So they've always been part of who I am, and just kind of how I live my life. And as I got into my 20s, I had a series of back injuries, whether just from, poor posture at the desk, weightlifting, got a motorcycle accident, all these type of things. And so cowboy boots traditionally are just leather stacked on leather heels, and so they're great for riding. But when you walk, man, all that impact just goes right back up into your lower back. And so as I aged, they became more uncomfortable to wear. But I'm stubborn. I'm a Texan, and so I would wear them anyway. Or I go out dancing, and I would just deal with the pain for the days or even weeks sometimes afterwards. And so I go out to West Texas often. That's my happy place. The Chisos Mountains is what we are named after. And as I was out there and wearing my boots and my back was hurting me, and one evening I just looked down and I said, "Man, how hard could it be to make a pair of cowboy boots?" And that's kind of the famous last word. So it took me down the rabbit hole, and I went and got books on boot making, and then I started YouTube, which is what everyone these days does. And then I started asking some of the masters and the other cobblers who could point me in the right direction. And so that was the genesis for Chisos.
There's so much more to this story. I love the part about you cutting open your boots. What did you realize was missing from the market when you started cutting up your footwear?
Well, I can show you. I had a feeling you might ask, so I'm gonna hold this up so
Wow.
the listeners, if you're listening, there's a video here. I'm holding up a cut in half Chisos, and so here's where you can see. So this is the heel, and this is actually stacked leather interior, leather heel counters, and steel shank holding the rigidity together. You can also look how thick our
Oh,
leather
yeah.
sole and our leather insole is. So a couple of things that I discovered when I started cutting open competitors. So I wanted to set out and make a comfortable boot, and so that's part of this idea of we build in this very thick leather top, which I believe we're the only one on the market doing that. Um, Removable comfort insole, so it dissipates the impact as you walk and still conforms to your foot the way a good cowboy boot should. We also thought about arch support. We thought about heel counter support, all those type of things. But when I started cutting open some of the other boots on the market, these big mass-produced boots, I started seeing, man, these guys are putting plastics in here, and they're putting very, very thin leather insoles, and maybe their heel counter's made of plastic, but they put this little piece of pig lining on top of it to hide it and say it's a leather heel counter, even though it's not a veg tan leather heel counter. And so there was this opportunity to go, okay, what if we made boots resilient like they were built in 1890, channel welts, no glues, and added in this idea of comfort. And so I think the marriage of those two is Chisos.
And am I right in thinking that you recorded yourself doing this and put it online, and that helped the business get traction in the beginning?
100%. So we've got a shop here in Austin. And so people will come in the shop and they'd be like, well, tell me about your boots. And so I would show them ours cut open and our competitors cut open and just let them do the talking. And one day one of my friends was like, you should really record this and put it on the internet. And so that's what we did. And it was kind of got the ball rolling, I think, in terms of the online community to put them, and get them in our corner.
What kind of reaction did people have when they saw this? Because when I hear this, I feel like many people were cheated, and it almost creates like a common enemy. Look how we've been overpaying for these shoes. They're not made well. You and I were talking in the pre-interview about how Fender did something very similar. Were people reacting very negatively towards the competitors when they saw this video?
So, it depends. We cut open in the video that we showcased two major brands. One of them is kind of at the low end of the market, and it's a fair boot for a fair price. You're paying a lower price, but you're also getting a lower quality boot. And so I just want to make you aware of that, and then here's the difference between that and we're twice the price of that particular competitor. And so here's what happens when you cut open a boot that's made a little bit differently. The other brand that we cut open is kind of a legacy brand, and they should know better. And they've been kind of on their good name. And so there was some of that reaction of people going, huh, okay. But at the very least, I want to make people aware that, Chisos is different and we're taking certain approaches. And there are other people out there that take similar approaches when it comes to craftsmanship and quality. There's no one who's merging the comfort and the craft together, not to my knowledge, but there are certainly other brands out there that are still making good boots. And so this is not like we're the only one, but I wanted to give people an awareness and a knowledge of, hey, there's some variability out here. Not all boots are made the same.
You mentioned a few times we. How many people are on the team right now?
We have 4 of us here in Austin, and then our workshop is down in Guanajuato, in the state of Guanajuato, outside the city of Leon. And so that's growing. So, we're in the dozens now in terms of the craftsmen who are now producing for us.
So you have this idea, you are cutting up your footwear, you're recording it. What are some of the ways that you got your first customers?
Oh, that's do things that don't scale, as I think Paul Graham said. And so I would go down. So in Austin, this street called 6th Street, there was a lot of bars on 6th Street. And so when I was making my prototypes, and then when I had the first production models too, I would just go down to a bar, sit at a cocktail table, and lay out 6, 7, 8 pairs of boots. And invariably, people will come up and talk to you. They're like, what are you doing? Is this a club shop? What's happening? And I'd say, no, try them on. Tell me what you think. And, drunk people will tell you what they really think. So that was a combination of early market research and actually getting my first sales.
That's incredible. What kind of feedback were you getting from people when they were trying on this boot in real time?
Most people were surprised that a handcrafted boot could feel that good the first time they put it on. Well, a lot of us are used to this idea of like, it's going to be 2-3 months of break-in. You're going to have to deal with the blisters, deal with the pain. And we have a process where we condition that leather, and we put it through the simulation of kind of walking in it. So when you get it, it's already partially broken in. There's still a bit of a break-in period, but the initial, you could walk them out the store and go, walk 10 miles down the street, and your feet are going to be no worse for wear.
Speaking of doing things that don't scale, I want to ask you a question. This came up in our pre-interview, and I'll say the phrase, and then you can run with this however you want. So, Virginia Beach Bomb Squad. Can you talk about that story? You know the one I mean.
Yeah. So after we did the video of cutting the boots open, which was ostensibly which boot is made the toughest, and okay, Chisos ones. So then we said, well, how tough is a pair of Chisos boots? And so I went out to a buddy's ranch, and we ran over it with my truck. We towed a Humvee with it. We tying it to the bootstraps to chains. We put gasoline and tannerite into the boots and blew them up. And it was a lot of fun. Several months later, I get this email from this guy. He says, hey, I saw you like blowing things up. I'm on the Virginia Beach Bomb Squad. I've got a pair of your boots. We saw that video. We loved it. If you're ever out here and you want to see how to really blow something up, just give us a shout. And well, it turns out I actually had a work conference and I was going to be out there. And so I swung by, and the Virginia Beach Bomb Squad gave me a hell of a tour, and we destroyed some things while we were there.
That's got to be some great publicity.
Oh, it was super fun. I mean, this is the thing with the Chisos is a community built boot brand. We are word of mouth driven. People always ask me like, what's your, we don't run paid ads. We do like 10 like $100 a month maybe on like retargeting, like tiny in the scale. I mean, our competitors spend thousands of dollars advertising on our name, and we rely on the community. And so these things, they kind of keep on happening. The Virginia Beach Bomb Squad. We've got some, the head chef at Bosque Ranch, which of course, if you guys know that connection to Taylor Sheridan and Yellowstone, he wears Chisos Boots, and a lot of mayors around the country, and a lot of CEOs. So we're kind of a sleeper brand, I think, in a lot of ways, and we like it like that.
I'm so glad that you mentioned community. I have a question here, and I was thinking about how to run up to it. And I think I'll go with this. So at 13, you read the book, The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt, and you said, quote, he always took responsibility for his path in life and for giving back more than his fair share to his community and nation. And when I read that, I felt like that had a direct impact on you and the community building efforts at the brand today. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Chisos is my way of getting to exist in the community. I think that it's important as, it's important as a man to understand what your vocation is. And yes, we sell boots, but really what we do is I would say maybe there's 3 tiers to this, is that the product itself is built to last, and it's built to enable people to be more of themselves. We've got guys that work in them. We've got guys that it's part of their identity when they go to an office. And we've got guys that have got, plantar fasciitis, and they haven't been able to wear boots for 20 years, and now they can again. So they're getting a piece of themselves back. I think the second tier of that is we contribute back. So a percentage of every sale goes to support land conservation in the state of Texas. So we've given to the Big Bend Conservation Alliance, which is where the Chisos Mountains are located, and other groups here in Central Texas. And then the third one is literally being a gathering place. We just had our spring event, and, we had over 450 people through the door, in our little shop. And we've got this, we open up the yard and close down the parking lot, put in a band and a stage, and we get people together, and they get to interact and commune with each other. And we do it online, but we really try and make a physical place for that. And I think that the heart of community is, are you contributing in a meaningful way with something that's useful? And I think, yes, we are. Are you then backing that up with making sure that this is preserved for the next generation? Yes. And then the third one is that, the heart of community is still physical interaction in person. And so we try and do some of this online, get people to talk to each other, but in our community group on Facebook, but it's magic here at the shop. And so that's what really keeps us motivated and keeps us going when business gets tough.
When you're organizing these events, are they for customers and or non-customers? Is it a mix of people? Is it for anyone that wants to come?
Anyone that wants to come. It's the but what's been really rewarding to see is the more that we have, the higher the percentage of the crowd is wearing Chisos. When we started, of course, no one knew who we were, and no one was wearing them. But the now you show up, and it's people have been they. So we had this last one that we had this couple of really interesting things happen. Is that we had people drive in from across the state now. We had a group of 3 guys fly from California to come be a part of it, and then we had another group that came up to me. They said, "Listen, our family's been coming to these for 4 years now, and it's a part of how we identify with Austin and with Texas is with Chisos and with y'all's community events, and that's what really warms my heart." So no, they're open to everyone.
That's fascinating. I had a question here as well about free shipping for Texans. Is that something that you're still doing?
Absolutely,
Can
yes,
you
it
talk a
is.
little bit about that?
Yeah, so I I always get a little heat for this one, so that's why maybe I'm blushing a little
It's
bit,
an
but
interesting one.
we offer free shipping for Texans. So if you buy and you're in the state of Texas, we comp the shipping. And if you're a Texan who's moved elsewhere and you reach out to us, we will still comp the shipping. That
And
is
what is
correct.
the thinking behind that?
We are a Texas we are a brand that's very proud of Texas. And I'm a native Texan. Our team is primarily native Texans and made up of one person who got here as quick as he could. We have a deep love and pride for this place. And so I want to be the boot brand Texans think of when they think of like what's the brand that grandpa would wear, or that I want to get for someone for a special occasion or for graduating and that type of stuff. I want it to be Chisos. And so we we go a little above and beyond. We take care of all of our customers, but I will admit that we do treat the Texans just a little bit extra special.
There's no harm in that, Will. So one question I wanted to ask you as well is, and for reference, I'm on the website now, and it's an interesting challenge I can imagine for some business owners. You have this product that is made to last, and it takes so much time and money to acquire new customers. How do you think about lifetime value? Are you having customers buy a pair and then maybe refer friends and family? How do you think about that? How does it all come together?
I think about it in an unsophisticated way, which is that if you build something of value, people will be proud to wear it and they will tell others about it. And so when I was developing the boot, our first set of Chisos, there were decisions to be made about planned obsolescence or it wearing out, and how often do people gonna come back and buy another one. And I made the decisions that led to a product where you don't need to buy multiple of them. You can buy one, and then the sole, the heel pieces will wear out as they're designed to, excuse me. And then you can repair them and you can replace them. But you don't need to buy a whole new boot. This isn't like how the auto industry or a lot of industries have moved to that model. And so we primarily get new business because someone is wearing the boots and is so happy with them. And then they tell their friends when they ask. And then we do, of course, have a very awesome subgroup of customers who come back and they buy another one and another one. And we've got guys that have got the entire collection, which is phenomenal and amazing. But yeah, we're not designing things that you're going to need to that you would throw out and replace on a regular basis.
That's so interesting. I'm on the collections page on the website now, and I can see 2, 4, 6, 8 different pairs of boots. How do you know? Granted, I know nothing about cowboy boots. How do you think about owning different pairs? Is it for different occasions? If you want to have the whole set, like what is the thinking behind it?
Yeah, certainly. So I just think about the way I think about it. So I mean, other people I'm sure have their own versions, but for me, it's like full quill ostrich is a little fancier, and then gator, as you can see just from the price point, is a whole nother tier. And so those boots, you're not going to go dig ditches in, and there are certain occasions that warrant them. And then under the regular cowhide boots, which is our bread and butter, I wanted a boot that you can wear all day, that you could do work in if you needed to, and then you can clean it and take the lady out downtown for a drink. and or for dinner and have a good evening. And so it's this kind of all around boot. But within that, I personally feel that the round toe is a little bit more formal. The black's a little bit more formal. The snip toe is a little bit more, we're gonna have a good time this weekend. So, I wear my snip toes and rough out on Saturday night. I probably wear my my square toe browns to the office. And if I'm going to, take someone out for dinner, I'll wear my black round toes. So that's how I think about it.
You mentioned the community and how much it means to different people. You have 1,174 five-star reviews, and I would be remiss if I didn't ask you what you're doing to drive these reviews. Are they happening organically, or do you have a workflow in place to collect reviews? What does that look like?
You buy a pair of boots. I think we wait 3 weeks, and we shoot you an email that says, "Hey, what did you think of these? How are they? Are they, we'd love to hear what you have to say." And other than that, we don't have anything else that's driving those. And you can pop over and see we've got some on, even on like on Google, where people leave reviews, and on some of the other platforms. We don't solicit those at all. And we actually have people that reach out before that 3 week period. They're like, leave a review. We're like, it's coming, it's coming. So we have that one little email that kind of asks people, but other than that, there's no incentive for it. What's wild to me is you go look at those. There are long reviews in there. I mean, we're talking like 5, 6, 700 words sometimes.
Yeah.
It's not just like, hey, they were great, 5 stars, or 4 stars or whatever it is. Like they're like, no, I'm going to tell you about what I did to research the brand and how I tested it and what I compared it against. And I finally found something that hit all the boxes. I mean, I will be the first to admit that Chisos is not for everyone, but for the people that it is for, man, there's nothing else like it.
And I think it's such a nice added touch seeing everyone showcasing the boots in the pictures, outside, indoors, men, women. I feel like it paints such a whole picture for the whole collection. So, moving on from that, I want to ask you a little bit about some of the challenges that you faced over the last couple of years. We've talked a lot about community building, some of the fun stories with getting the brand name out there. What are some of the things that you might be struggling with right now?
Well, we are to kind of full reveal. I mean, we are professionalizing, so building better systems, taking our systems and improving them, building out dedicated fulfillment facilities. We've been running everything out of this little shop in South First in Austin, Texas, and we are outgrowing it. So we are keeping the shop, but we are adding in, larger facilities in the shop in Mexico. We are upgrading and hiring, and we have a training program we developed for apprentices. So I think that this idea of going from, a business goes from like stage one is like, 0 to 1, right? Is like, well, can you survive? And then maybe we made it from 1 to 2, and now it's like, okay, past that, every time you kind of have to reinvent part of the business. And one of the things though that I am completely dedicated to, though, is that we will not sacrifice the quality of the product. So we will not going to take the boots and put in plastics. We're not going to take the boots and start cutting corners. And even that message falls through, that desire falls through even to the way we fill the stuff. So we write a handwritten note in every boot to every person, and comment on where it's coming from, and we appreciate it, and all that kind of good stuff. And so everyone tells me to stop doing that, but we're not going to stop doing it. We want to make sure we still have that hand touch. So that's probably the challenge that we have now, is how do we grow at a reasonable rate and hold on to those things that were core to why people supported us to begin with.
Yeah, it's definitely a conundrum for many founders. I'm curious, how do you think your day to day will change as the business continues to grow?
Sure, my personal day to day will, I think right now I have a hand in everything, and as we grow, the roles will become more specialized. And even the team that I have, we all touch multiple areas right now out of necessity. So as we grow, we'll have more people in a certain vertical, like say production, and then we'll have management. And my job will probably be more about maintaining systems and reports versus being in the weeds. And the second side of my, that's one side of maybe like the barbell of responsibilities. The other side, though, is that actually I think it's more about being here and interacting with customers, more about doing conversations like we're having right now, and this idea of being kind of an advocate for Chisos. So right now it's all hands on deck, and I'm touching inspections and fulfillment and marketing and creating content and writing content and sending the email, all these type of things, and spending a lot of time in Mexico still. But I think that probably it'll go back to more to being a chief systems officer, and also still being maybe chief relationship officer.
I love it. I want to start bringing the conversation to a close, and I want to come full circle as well and talk a little bit about where you were several years ago with that pain, looking down at your boot, to where you are now. Has your vision changed for the brand, and where do you see the brand going in the next couple of years?
No, it has not changed. So from the very beginning, the goal was to get to a certain size. I want to stay under, I want to say about 10 employees or less. I want us to be able to still know and have interactions with all of our customers, still be able to answer our phones. And I want to have a gathering place. I think that my vision is to have a ranch outside Austin. When you come to Chisos, you're coming to a true headquarters, and you're getting to see the flagship. And we also have all of our fulfillment team all here, so it's all one team. We're not split in multiple locations. You can grab a cold beverage and look out over our pond and jump on a horse. I mean, like this is what I want. I really want there's these old dance halls in Texas, or this court. I think a lot of our psychology and how we interact and have community, and I want to have one on the property. So I think the vision is everything we have right now, and just kind of turn the volume up on it.
I love it. I think that's a great place to start wrapping things up. Will, where can our listeners go to learn more about Chisos?
Yeah, so the number one place is going to be just Chisos. That's CHISOS.com. You can also, we've got a lot of video content on YouTube, which is just youtube.com/Chisos. And the same thing on Instagram, which would be Instagram/Chisos.
Perfect. Well, we'll put all those links in the show notes. And Will, I want to thank you again for taking the time to join us today. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I will be thinking of you the next time I watch Yellowstone and Chisos as well. And I want to say in closing, all the best in the future with the brand and everything you're working on.
I appreciate it, Sam. Thank you. And thanks to everybody who's listening.